What's up? Welcome to the More Than a Minute podcast. My name is Isaac.
My name is Desiree.
This is our first podcast episode for the month of November.
So, fun fact, every year for the past 7 years, every time Christmas comes around, I'm always like, we need to shop early for Christmas. And we never do.
Nope, never.
But we did this year.
Yes.
So we started at the end of August.
Yes.
And thankfully, we're just about done. Woo! And it's not even December yet. So we're super happy.
Yes.
Even for our daughter, we've almost got her pretty much covered.
Yes.
And I have a feeling that after this year of experiencing not having to spend so much money in December right before Christmas, that we're probably not going to go back to doing that because I kind of like it.
So, today's episode, we are going to talk about friends. Now, I was thinking about titling this video, What Friends? But I don't know. We'll see about it. So one of the biggest lies that I've ever told myself is that I don't have any friends. Now, that may have been true for a certain period of time. Maybe I didn't really have friends. But in retrospect, looking back, I could see how there was actually a bunch of godly people, godly men that were surrounding me that had the opportunity to be my friend. But your boy was closed off. God didn't create us to live life on our own. Matter of fact, one of the first things he did was say that it is not good for man to be alone. So he created a woman so that he could have a life partner. Now I'm going to read this verse from Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 9 through 10. It says, 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help, but someone who falls alone is in real trouble. So there is a danger of living life alone.
So like Isaac said, there is a danger in isolation, meaning isolating ourselves. We were never created to be by ourselves. Even Adam, the first creation, God saw that he needed somebody. And as people, we were built to be seen and we were built to be loved. And I feel like those are basic human needs that we seek.
Absolutely.
Whether it's from friends, some of us try to look for it in relationship, like romantic relationships. That's something that we try to look for. Obviously, we don't want to be with people who don't pay attention to us.
Yep. Or
people who ignore us. We want to be seen and we want to be loved. And there's a couple of ways that the enemy keeps us from doing that, from experiencing that. One of the first ways is one distracting us from seeking help from God. And another, and kind of more of what we're wanting to pinpoint on this podcast episode, is keeping us from seeking help from other people.
Yeah.
So when we listen to lies about our worth, we tend to back away from people.
Yeah.
Like we've been saying, there's danger in doing that. When we believe lies about our worth that tell us that we're not worth being seen and we're not worth being loved, we're quick to believe that if anybody really knew us, then that they wouldn't love us or that they wouldn't think that we're worth inconveniencing. Like we've talked about that already, being inconvenienced, but we're quick to believe that we're not worth being somebody else's inconvenience. And that keeps us from reaching out. Yeah, because we think that we're bothering people by asking for help or asking for prayer or for advice.
Yeah.
We think that we're bothering people. After so long of trying to do things on our own and tried to go through life by ourselves, and the more that we do it, whether or not it's actually damaging to us, we start to think that we're made to do that. We start to think that we are strong enough, even though in our alone moments when we're by ourselves, sometimes we feel like we're breaking and we feel like we can't make it through whatever we're going through because we're not reaching out to other people. Even though we're experiencing those moments by ourselves, on the outside, we start to think that we're just made to handle things like that. We're just made to deal with things by ourselves.
And we're not. As we mentioned earlier, there's such a danger of trying to just do things by yourself.
So Isaac and I put our heads together.
Bow.
Did we do it at the same time?
No. but it's okay.
So because this is something, so Isaac and I, like we've shared, we have a lot of conversations, and this is something that we've talked about for a few years. So we came up with a list of a few things that we've learned about friendship, because I feel like, even like we were talking earlier about being adults, sometimes like it's easy to have friends when you're like going to school and stuff like that, because you see people every day, because you have to be at school. But when you come into adulthood and then you start like having a family, and then your friends start having families, sometimes it's hard to maintain friendships. Yeah. So we came up with the list of some things that we've learned about friendship and community that we wanted to share with you guys, because it's stuff that we feel like is important to remember and to know and to practice.
Number 1, being closed off to people can prevent friendships. So as I mentioned earlier, biggest lie I ever told myself is that I don't have any friends. It's not that I didn't have any friends. It's just that I was closing myself off to other people. When you close yourself off to other people, it's hard to make friends, because people are coming to you or saying hi or what's up. And we just built this wall, almost this boundary, that I can't get close to people. I can't tell anybody anything, or like a wall that we can't get close to people. That means that we aren't allowing people to come into our lives. So me doing that, I was missing opportunities for people to come in to minister to me, people to come in and to lift me up and to build my spirit, because I was automatically closed off to them. So being closed off to people can prevent friendships, but it can also prevent opportunities as well. So little did I know is that, which brings me to our next point, is that friendships can come through ways that we do not expect. So it's not always going to be in the setting that we think where these friendships come from. Like, one of the best friends that I've ever made was at a job at Office Max. Yeah, I worked at Office Max when I was like 20 years old. So it was actually in the workplace where I actually met one of my good friends, and it actually turned out that he was Christian. He didn't even know I was Christian. And somehow we just figured it out, and somehow we just clicked up, and that's where one of my good friendships has came from. So it's coming in ways that we don't expect.
So Isaac and I, we joke a lot because we have a lot of friends, and a lot of our greatest friends don't live in the city that we live in.
I don't know.
A lot of them. And it's...
My best friend moved to Tennessee, but... Yeah,
it's a little different.
Yeah, anyways.
But yeah, a lot of our really good friends aren't even from the town that we live in. And so thinking about how friendships come in like the most unexpected ways. Mm-hmm. So Isaac and I started attending a church a few years ago, and I've shared with you guys that I'm very shy, and I'm still like that. Mm-hmm. I have to fight it, and I have to push myself.
Introvert.
Yes, very much so. And I remember when we started attending this church, the pastor had encouraged us to get involved in ministry and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember Isaac did right away.
Yeah.
I didn't. I waited because
she had wanted to. She was wrestling with the fact that, should I join the ministry team or should I sit out?
Yes. And it was a ministry that I'm very passionate about. So I really wanted to. But what was keeping me from doing it was having to talk to new people. Yeah. And because I was scared. I'm not one to like put myself out there even in anything. I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, I'll do whatever. Like I feel like there was a season of my life where I feel like God was directing me through people in my life. And I had this understanding with God, like whatever you put in front of me, I'll do it. And so during that season of our lives, I felt that God was putting me in a position where like, okay, I know you'll do what I ask you to, but now like you're going to have to open up your mouth and you're going to have to ask for it. I struggled with it for a long time, but like to make a long story short, I ended up talking to the ministry leader, and even up until now, like she's one of my best friends. And that's, if I had let the introverted part of my brain get the better of me, then that could not have happened. That could have been a connection that I lost out on, and a friendship that I wouldn't have had.
And that brings us to our next point, is that you have to be a friend to make a friend. Sometimes we just got to put ourselves out there, get out there and say, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? My name's Isaac. Hey, what's up? My name's Desiree. Hey, I like your shoes. Hey, sometimes you just make friends by just sparking these conversations. Like me, I like to compliment people. If they have a nice shirt, I tell them, say, hey, bro, I like your shirt. Or I like their shoes, say, hey, bro, I like your shoes. And we just start talking, or, you start building that relationship. Next time it goes from a compliment to like a conversation. And sometimes you got to put yourself out there to make a friend. you had to be a friend, right? So that means that you got to go out there and start talking to people. So like literally you got to go out there and talk to people. And for some of you that may be tough, that may be rough, but there's times that you gotta, like if you're praying for friends, there's times that you gotta put your faith into work, because faith without works is dead. So you could be praying for friends, but if you're always in your room all the time, if you don't never go out, how are you going to make these friends? Don't get to that point to where you just close off everybody, because there was a thing going on a couple months ago, at least on my Facebook page or online. What I was looking at was like everybody was like feeling, man, I need friends, man, I need somebody to hang out with. And I was just like, if a lot of people feel like that, why don't they just all get together and be friends with each other? And it's like sometimes those people are there and they're around us, but we got to be open to these new connections, to these new friendships. I don't know, sometimes we could carry a bias towards people or a bias towards how they look or how they act, and we got to be unbiased to be open to these new friendships that could present themselves. Otherwise we're going to miss out on those opportunities.
So kind of talking about putting yourself out there and just kind of, and it sounds so simple when you say it, to just to just reach out and like be a friend.
The concept's simple.
Yeah, the concept is so simple, but it's hard to do. And even just a few months ago, we had somebody reach out to us, somebody we hadn't really hung out with too much before. We've kind of met in passing and stuff like that. But they randomly sent Isaac a text and was like, hey, do you guys want to get together? Yeah. And we were so like, really?
And we were kind of talking about it before, but we just never, you know, you get busy as an adult, and sometimes, hey, let's make plans, let's do this, and you just never.
Yeah, you're always like, oh, we'll get together, we'll get together, and then like life happens, and
just like a year later,
time goes by, and it's just like, where did it go?
Yeah.
But we were so surprised. It was even funny because weren't they like, hey, do you and your wife want to get together for some cheesecake?
Yeah, and they took us to Cheesecake Factory. Oh my gosh.
But even just the way they asked.
I don't know if anybody says that anymore. They probably don't.
It doesn't matter because it was good. Yeah. But even for them to just ask, and we were just like, cheesecake? Like, we like cheesecake. Yeah, cheesecake. Let's do it.
Like, for my birthday, I always get cake, but I don't prefer cake. I prefer cheesecake. So
his birthday next year, keep that in mind.
Cheesecake. Yeah.
But yeah, and honestly, it really made me like, why can't we just do that? Like, why can't we just like ask somebody, hey, do you want to get together? Do you want to do this? Like, and just actually do it, because I think that was the first time it had happened that effortlessly to just somebody say, hey, do you guys want to get together? And we're like, yeah, let's do it. And like I said, it's not somebody that lives in our town, but we're willing to.
And we drove about 35, 40 minutes just to go meet these people. We just found the center part where we could just meet, and we had a blessed and awesome time. And I was just reminded like the power of friendships, the power of community, and how we're able to uplift each other. Like, yes, going to church is good. Yes, hearing the word of God is good. It's good to go to church on Sundays, but there's so much more that happens when you're one-on-one with somebody or you're fellowshipping with somebody. There's chances and opportunities for conversations that you can have when you're just one-on-one with somebody. You're just hanging out with a group of friends or a small group, you know, that you won't necessarily be able to have like in a church setting.
So one of the best things about being able to have those one-on-one times with people is that you get to invite people to be a part of your life in a way that you wouldn't, like Isaac said, in a church setting and a Sunday service setting, because Sunday services, you come to worship, you come to hear God's word. And then most of the time after that, people are already ready to go figure out what they're going to eat for lunch afterwards. Yeah. and there's no way to like let anybody in that way. And so it's good to make a point to invite people into your life. Like I said, after that happened, since then, it really put me into like shock. And then it put it into perspective for me that like, it's that easy. Why can't we just do that? And we have a couple of times since then, because after that we had a conversation about it, and I was like, we need to start doing that, because it was so. And like I said, at the time when we were given that invitation, these weren't people that we were like super close with, and it made me like, why can't we know people? Why can't we just do that? And a big part of being able to let people into your life that way is to be vulnerable. We've talked about that. I think we more talked about it in like a marriage perspective, but me personally, I, like you said, you like to kind of spark conversation by complimenting people. Yeah. which I think is awesome, because you don't meet people that'll just compliment somebody just to compliment them, to try to uplift them. But me personally, I like to make connections by being vulnerable, and I try not to be too vulnerable.
Like tell me that story.
One, because I understand, like, I can't just dump my whole life on somebody the first time that I meet them. Even if they wanted me to, it'd probably take too long.
Especially the older you get, the longer stories you have, the older you get. I don't know what you just have a lot of stories, I guess. 30 years older or whatever. But
So even if I wanted to do that, because I don't desire to do that, even if I wanted to, I believe that there is wisdom in who you share things with, depending on what it is that I want to share. Like, it's one thing to share parts of my life, but I'm very like cautious with things that I'm going through currently in like my current season, because I believe that there's wisdom in who you talk to, and there's wisdom in who you surround yourself with, because I believe that what people speak to you during like critical times of going through your hard seasons, that sets the path for where you go, because it, in a way, it helps to shape the things that you think, or the way that you look at things, your perspective and stuff like that. So I believe there's wisdom in who you talk to about certain things.
Not everybody's a friend.
But I do believe that, and I've come, because there was a time where, like, I think we both have felt like we couldn't share anything with anybody because we didn't want to be vulnerable. We didn't want to let people into a certain point. I feel like there was a very long time where, like, my conversations never went past like, hey, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. How are you?
That's it.
Yeah, and that's it. But I feel like it's okay. It's okay to let people know who you are. Like I said, and
share like facts about you. Like, hey, I like the Arizona Cardinals. They're having a terrible season right now. But you know, it's good. People want to know a little bit about you. If you're like that suspicious person in the back or mysterious, it's like, I don't know why. It just like turns people. Yeah, it's kind of sketchy. They're like, who is this guy? Like, oh, I watched like these 60 Days In, you know, where they go in jail or prison, and they're like, they want to know everything about that person. Like, who's this? Why are they here? Why that? People want to know a little bit about you, and it's okay to share that.
Yeah, and I've learned that, and even things that, like, hard things that I've gone through in the past, I've learned that it's okay to tell people. It's okay to, because it might encourage somebody, and that's also something that we stop if we don't leave ourselves open to be a friend to somebody else.
Yeah,
that's something else. Not only do we stop like being able to receive anything from anybody else as far as friendship and being seen and being loved and appreciated as a friend, but we also stop being able to pour into somebody else by sharing things that they might need to hear.
Yeah. So sometimes if you want a friend, you gotta be a friend. So I challenge you. Just start talking to people. We go to church, you go to work, say, hey, how you doing? Hey, I like your shirt. Or there's somebody that you've been planning to hang out with and you haven't done it. Just go ahead and just set up that date. Just, you know, it don't have to be somewhere fancy like the Cheesecake Factory or Olive Garden. Like recently, we went to Avondale to somebody's house and we brought food over there and we fellowship. So you don't have to be like in a fancy setting. It could be at a coffee shop. You know, you're just getting, you know, your $5-6 coffee and you just hanging out. And I've done that before too. There's a friend that I have. We go to Dunkin's quite often and just talk. So that concludes this video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Please share it. It helps the algorithm, whatever that is. I appreciate it. God bless. We out.